cat? Are you ready to degree the camshaft?
She said, I thought it was a Little Caesar's pizza.
Thought it was a what?
Thought it was a Little Caesar's pizza.
It probably was at one time. But
It
now,
definitely was at one time. Probably. They just sell cam degree kits in those boxes.
well, look, I borrowed this camshaft degree wheel from Craig Ritchie 20 years ago.
Never returned it.
I plan on returning it. I'm keeping the box so that I can return it. Craig Ritchie, if you're out there, I still have it.
You hate when people don't return something.
Mm-hmm. It's gained a few things over the years, but it's all still intact. Here's the hanger he gave me. Here's the degree wheel. See, I keep it upside down so it don't get messed up. Still looks brand new.
The box could be replaced, but...
This engine camshaft, we didn't pick it, and it's extremely old, apparently. I talked to Bobby at Cam Motion to get the cam card info. She said, Bobby, I know him. We got that gold Chevy. And he said that it was really old. He said it's like from pre-2012, so.
Very old.
So, but these are the numbers he gave me that it's supposed to be. This would be what's on your cam card if you have a cam with a cam card. So the point is, check those cam events to top dead center so that you know when the intake valve is opening, when it's closing in relation to top dead center. We're gonna put on the degree wheel.
A pro degree wheel.
It's the pro, yeah, because
Because whatever that guy's name was, he was a pro. I already forgot.
Craig Ritchie?
Yeah.
Craig Ritchie was obviously a cam degree pro.
I mean, he has 2 first names, so.
Well, just so you know, when I was just getting started into street racing, Craig Ritchie was pro. He had a fast El Camino, and he had a really fast truck.
And then somebody took his cam degree kit, so
you know,
just...
that was about the time that he stopped racing.
Anyhow.
Maybe.
This just got really dark.
We're trying to find the cam events in relation to top dead center. What would we need to find first?
Top dead center.
We're going to do that with this. This is a piece of aluminum that I made. Obviously, it has an
expensive
bolt.
ARP intake bolt.
Well, yeah, because 12-point bolts are the best. But it also has a piece from an air cleaner lid.
Adjustable.
Oh, yeah, finger adjustable. Yeah. So we're going to put this on the block. We're going to get it as centered as we can, which, you know how that goes.
Gerald's videos are much more professional about that.
You know why?
Because he's a professional.
He deserves the pro degree wheel.
Yeah, you need the amateur degree wheel.
I'll fix it real quick.
Do a dash. Yep, semi-pro.
That's me. I'm semi-something. There we go. So we've mounted our semi-pro degree wheel. Now we install zip pointer.
Baby cat, are you semi-pro, pro, or super pro?
We're gonna back this all the way up. We're gonna get it close. We're just gonna use our squirrel eye. So we're gonna watch that piston, and when it gets close, the point of the pointer and everything is you turn this till the piston stops against this. Then you go back the other way till it stops. You split the difference, and that'll make TDC on here match actual TDC. So that is 30, a little over 31. And this is 34. That's pretty close. What's the difference between 31 and 34?
32 and a half.
It's 32 and a half.
Whoa. Yowza.
Nope, we went the wrong way. 38. 28. What's the difference between those two?
10. So 33.
33? Okay. Ooh, we're close. 32 this way, just over 32. Almost 34. And go around to the other side. Almost 34. Okay, now that we have both sides of the wheel from TDC, the pointer is pointing at the same number on both sides. So when you remove the stop, when the piston gets to top dead center, the pointer will be pointing exactly at top dead center. And this way, it gets the rock out of the piston because you put it in the center of the piston, and it gets the slack out of the pin and the slack out of the bearing on the crankshaft. And so you don't have to worry about those tolerances all stacking up against you. So now, if we rotate this over, in theory, this pointer is going to be pointing exactly at top dead center when the piston gets to exactly top dead center. And it does, as far as we know. Now that we know where top dead center is, and we have all these semi-pro numbers on here, now we can check our cam events. And so to do that, we got two lifters in here, intake and exhaust. And we're gonna roll them down till they're both on the base circle of the cam and they're not moving. About there, little track home doodad here. And we're gonna stick it, thankfully this is a steel block because it's magnetic. Take a push rod and you really wanna get it lined up as straight as you can, because if it's all anti-goggling, it's gonna push odd numbers. So you want it to line up this way, and you want it to line up this way as best you can. All right. So now we want to find 0. So now as the crankshaft moves, the camshaft's going to move, and you're going to see the lift or the lobe moving on the dial indicator. There's 0. So you see, it's not really moving. It's just sitting there. So that's 0, right somewhere around there. So we're gonna move this to 0. You kind of got to go back and forth a couple times to make sure you have as 0 as you get. Most cams stay pretty well 0. This one seems to move a little bit at 0. This is what it's advertised at from Cam Motion. Duration at 50, 289 on the intake, 314 on the exhaust. Lobe lift 520, 482. Lift with 1.8 rocker, which is what we have. 936 on the intake, 869 on the exhaust. So it's a little bitty cam. The lobe separation angle lobe separation 116 degrees between the two lobe center lines. Intake center line on a 112, exhaust on a 120. In order to get to these numbers, this is what you need. Intake open at 50, 32.5 degrees before top dead center. Close at 50. So what we're looking for is, because the base circles are never right, because they grind the base circle to get more lift, you have to check them at a known open number. And they checked them at 50, so we are. So when the intake gets to 50 thousandths open, we're gonna look at this wheel and we're gonna mark that down here. And then we're gonna do the same at 50 thousandths before close. Then we're gonna do the same on the exhaust, and that's gonna tell us all of these numbers with a little math. Hopefully, we're in the ballpark. That's 50, and we have 28. Come in here, you mark this number down, 28. Intake open, 50 thousandths is at 28 degrees before top dead center. So here's top dead center, 28 degrees before. Now we're gonna find the intake closed, and while we're on our way there, we're gonna find our lobe lift. So it's already moved 50. So we're gonna count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 510, 518 is the lobe lift on the intake. So now we're going to go back down to close, and we're going to stop at 50 before closed. So we're at 520 now. So 500, 400, 300, 200, 100. Shit. I went a little far, semi-pro, you know. And if you go too far, back up 50 or so, and then go back at it from the same direction. Is that 50? Pretty close?
It's a little over.
What? Oh, it's a little that way. What about now?
I don't know. Good enough.
Okay.
Good enough for Jimmy Dale.
Jimmy Dale ain't never degreed his camshaft. You know better than that. We're going to record this number, which is going to be our 50 from closed, 96. But before, we were looking at before top dead center. This number we need after bottom dead center. 96 is before top dead center. We need after bottom dead center, which is way over here. Luckily, this wheel has the numbers on it because it's semi-pro, yeah. So instead of 96, we're gonna go off this blue line, which it's, so 80, 1, 2, 3, 4, 84. Okay, and I can already tell you, we're pretty far off there. So you add these two numbers together, equals 112. You add that to 180 plus 180 equals 292. So our duration at 50 is 292.
Math.
Freaking science. That doesn't match either though. If you were buying a cam off the internet, the difference between these two would be a stage 3 and a 4. So now you take that 292 duration at 50, divide that by 2, get 146, and then you subtract the intake open at 50 number, minus 28, and you get 118, which is our intake center line. We know this is a 292 at 50 with a 518 lobe lift, and it's installed on a 118 intake center line. But a quick look at the old cam card here, it's supposed to be on a 112 center line. So let's do the exhaust before we move it. If that's the case, this cam is 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 6 degrees retarded.
That's rough.
Yeah, I had a cousin that was 6 degrees retarded. Trust me, that's a lot. I'm sorry, I meant my cousin had his camshaft was 6 degrees. I had a cousin whose camshaft was 6 degrees retarded. I guarantee you, Jimmy Dale's camshaft's at least 3.5 degrees retarded. So now we're gonna do the exhaust, even though I'm pretty sure we just need to move it, but we're gonna do it anyway. Yeah.
Well, there goes
This
that.
engine is a terrible workbench.
It's a terrible engine too, so don't got much going for it.
Now we're gonna do the exhaust.
Why does your thing say with cam gear 8 degrees retarded as was installed?
Well, take a look, take a gander. So these Jezels have a nifty little thing on them because they're adjustable.
Bezels.
And it says A.
We can't see it because you're blowing it out. There you go.
It says A for for advanced, and R stands for retarded.
We need a different word for this.
Our engine is retarded. There's a little bitty white mark up inside of here. Well, this motor's slit is
How
retarded.
retarded is your motor?
And every one of those hash marks is supposed to represent 2 degrees. So I was just looking at this going, well, it looks like they had it 2, 4, 6, that's 8 degrees retarded. But that doesn't equate to anything on there. There's only a few reasons you would want to retard a camshaft that far. And one of them is terrible. As you can imagine, as you advance or retard a camshaft to top dead center, you're moving the valve open and close to the piston. So you could have an issue there. So we gotta get to 0 here. Okay, now we're gonna make sure it hangs around 0 there. And it kind of does. So now we want to go 50 degrees or 50 thousandths open. Here we are. This is before bottom dead center, or here's bottom dead center here. We are before bottom dead center. So if we count from here, this way, that puts us at, let's check this again. Gotta use my squirrel eye. Okay, yeah. Yeah, 94.
And that's the measurement of it all the way down because they're doing exhaust.
Before bottom dead center, yes. The exhaust opens 94 degrees of crankshaft rotation before the piston is at bottom dead center. Now we need to do the closed, or we need to do total lobe lift. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 482 lobe lift on the exhaust. 482. And then we're gonna go all the way to open. it's 1, 2, 3. And then we're gonna go back to 50 before closed. 94 and 42 is 316. 316 divided by 2 is 158, minus the closed, minus 42, is 116. So our exhaust center line is 116. And now you get the lobe separation by doing, you add these two together and then divide by 2. So 118 is the intake center line plus 116 is the exhaust center line equals 234. Divide that by 2 and you get 117. The cam card showed 289, 314. The way we ran it, it's showing 292, 316. So it's quite a bit bigger than what they said. That would mean that our camshaft is retarded 6 degrees. Intake center line 112, ours is 118. So if we advance the camshaft 6 degrees, we should be at a 112. In order to advance the cam, we loosen these 4 bolts. We're gonna roll this over to the 2 degree retarded hash mark, which would be 6 degrees because it's at 8. So if we put this in dot to dot, the way people do, without degreeing it, we would actually be advanced 2 degrees from where they want it. And usually, if your lobe separation is 116, you usually want to install it 3 or 4 degrees advanced, or 3 or 4 degrees from that, which is what they have, 4. So we're gonna do 5 to put ours on a 112. It'll actually be 5 degrees advanced from where they want it, but it'll be 6 degrees advanced from where we had it, or from where they had it. Holy moly. Hopefully,
It's not really advanced though, it's just less retarded. Well, I feel like you'll confuse people by saying it's advanced because that would, to be 6 degrees advanced, that's 14 degrees difference.
Yes.
From negative to positive.
So when I'm talking advanced retarded, I'm talking from where it was as we ran it.
Right.
You know, I'm
but
using,
it'll still be technically
it
retarded.
will still be on here 2 degrees retarded to be at 0 of what they want, which is 112.
Right, but it's not
But
6 degrees advanced. It's
No,
6
it's
degrees
6
closer
degrees
to
less retarded.
0.
Yeah, it's 6 degrees less. Yeah, you're right. It's 6 degrees less retarded than it was. But if anyone's ever ran a camshaft and ran it back to back, moving it 6 degrees towards advanced or less retarded, that's going to make a monster difference.
Is that where some of our stator issues were, you know?
It's very possible. If a motor wants a camshaft at a certain place, it's going to run better there no matter if it's advanced or retarded. But if in our case, where our camshaft is a little big for what we're doing, retarding it would make it worse. It would make it run higher RPM and to have less snot down low.
Which is how it was.
Which is exactly how it was.
Right.
So
now we probably have the wrong stator in it. And or the wrong gear. And or the wrong converter.
that's racing. We can change that stuff. But here's where it gets weird. So why did they run it that far? Did they run it that far because that's where it made the most power on the dyno? Because I know on the dyno it made the most power at like 8,400 RPM or 8,500 RPM or whatever. So like, did they back the timing up because that's where it made the most power up high and that's how they were running it? Or did they put it there because they didn't have the piston to valve clearance? I think maybe that's how they were running it, was, you know, high horsepower, high RPM, and they retarded the camshaft. The good thing is though, we're trying not to look backwards, trying to look always forward and trying to look at progression rather than, you know, all that. I feel like it'll run better with the camshaft installed at a 112. I think it'd probably run better at a 110. We're gonna start at 112 and because that's where the cam stuff specs out or whatever. Before I do anything else, I need to check piston valve clearance at that, because when you retard a camshaft, the intake valve gets further away from the piston, but the exhaust valve gets closer. But when you advance a cam or move it away from, or less retarded, the intake valve gets closer to the piston and the exhaust gets further away. So if they had intake to valve clearance problems, we're gonna see it real soon. That's, you know, part of engine building. You would think a known combo that was already running wouldn't need all this stuff, and it may not, but it was only a known combo when it ran good. As soon as it broke, then to us it was like, well, if that was wrong or this was wrong, what else is wrong? If we'd have tore a piston up and it was our own fault, we'd have just put a piston in it, put it back together and ran it.
Right.
But because we found so many other things that we think were wrong with it, we just want to go through everything, you know? So this is one of the steps of that, because I mean, hell, I put the whole short block together and then turn it over with the camshaft in it, and the rods hit the cam, so I had to grind those. So obviously this isn't the same engine anymore because we're having to change things, you know what I mean? This is almost the last step to building an engine is degreeing the camshaft and getting that set up. Once that setup's done, you check piston and valve clearance. Once that's all done, I mean, then it's just nuts and bolts and assembling. So I'm gonna keep checking with this until I get it on a 112. And then I'm gonna check piston and valve clearance. I may check it at 110 just in case we ever decide to advance it 2 more degrees, but that way
Less
we just
retarded.
Huh? Well, if we go to a 1, no, yeah, you're right.
Make it just average.
110
human.
would be 0, yeah.
So at 112, we'll still be 2 degrees retarded.
On the gear.
Yeah.
But we'll be at 0 to what they wanted at. Either way, you know, it's just what we're gonna do. It's where we're gonna be. And then I think it'll run better down low and through the middle. I think it'll recover better on the shifts. It may not make the same power, but here's the thing. We don't even know what it ran like because we never turned it to 8,500. If we only took it to 7,900,
we didn't go in that.
We're not going to miss,
at,
you know, if we'd have took it to 8,500 and it ran a tenth better, we're not going to miss that by retarding the camshaft or less advanced, less retarding, advancing the camshaft, less retarded. We're not going to miss that because we only turned it to $8,000 anyway. So in theory, we can turn it to the same $8,000 and it should run better. Next on the agenda is I'm going to keep jacking with this until I get it where I want it on a 112. Make all the numbers jive. I'm going to make sure we have piston and valve clearance. Then it's final assembly time. Head gaskets will be here in a day or 2. Of course, nobody had those either. NX got the intake done. We'll be getting that soon. Hopefully it looks good. I'm excited. Welcome to engine assembly. Welcome to race car. This is why it sucks so bad when you tear something up, because it's like nothing goes back together. You know what I mean? It's not a quick, easy deal.
We have to always watch for little details like that because we could have just stuck that back in at 8 degrees and not even known.
Yeah, that's the thing. I could have just slapped this thing back together the way it was, and it would have ran about like the way it did before, maybe a little better because of some of the things that we fixed. But, you know, if we're waiting on head gaskets and stuff anyway, why not? You know, why not degree the camshaft? Because if we can find little bits in here, you know what I mean? It'll be happier on the racetrack. So.
Well, and those little bits could be the little bits that last us until my aluminum one's done. And
exactly. The more horsepower we can find here, the less horsepower we have to find in nitrous jet. I'm gonna check the piston and valve clearance, and then it'll be time to final assemble this dude. Time to get the silicone out.